Good evening and welcome to our May Membership Master Vault series, brought to you on behalf of Region 36. And boy, do we have a exciting panel of exceptional leaders for you tonight. This title is Event to Member Conversion Playbook, and I know they are going to exhilarate you with powerful information and ways in which you will make an impact through your influential ways of being a Rotarian and Rotaractor. I want to acknowledge first that you have a Q&A, and please put all of your questions and answers throughout our series. And you also have a chat box, but we encourage you to use our Q&A. Now, I want to tell you all just about the people that are going to be presenting for you today. My classmate and dear friend, Deb McCaslin, will be, of course, the coordinator of this wonderful event, but I cannot acknowledge more than a woman we all know, a leader who is extraordinary in all that she has done through Rotary, and someone who installed me when I was a district governor, our past director, Susie Howe. So I cannot wait for you all to hear all about this seminar. So as we open it up, I want to bring to you none other than Deb, my past district governor classmate. Deb, the floor is yours, and I yield the mic.
Hey, thank you, Demetrius. I'm thinking this is going to be kind of fun tonight. At least I hope you think it is. Thank you for your kind words. And we indeed are honored tonight to have past International Director Susie Howe as one of our guests. Tonight we are here to talk about service above self and membership. A landmark study by the Johns Hopkins Center for Civil Society found that Rotarians donate roughly 47 million hours of service every single year, and that these hours conservatively are valued at over $850 million annually. I'm going to bring up my screen. Okay, here we go. Uh, it takes me just a half a minute to get it to do what I want it to do, which is um, do the slideshow from the beginning. There we go. We're here this evening to talk about a specific topic of service because when disasters strike, our Rotarians are there to answer the call. This past spring, Nebraska caught on fire. We burned over 890,000 acres, homes, barns, machinery, livestock infrastructure. This was the largest and most widespread fire in Nebraska history. And sadly, yes, we had a death. To put this into perspective, this fire will displace over 35,000 cow-calf pairs this summer. We have to find new homes for this many livestock. One might ask, what does this have to do with membership development? It has everything to do with membership. When Rotary responds to fulfill its mission of service above self, it leverages its network of 1.2 million plus members for immediate and short-term relief and long-term rebuilding. Because we know our communities, we know our partners, we know the resources. Frankly, we know who to call. We know who to bring to the table to get done what needs to be done. This is our job. This is our calling. The bottom line is that all disasters start and end local, and our Rotarians are on the ground to respond. We're there to help pick up our communities and to help make them better. Our job is that important, and the more members we have, the better the job we can do. Next up, I'd like for you to meet a good friend and a great Rotarian, Don Peterson. I would also like to point out the Q&A box on your screen. As we work through this evening's presentation, please enter your questions into the box, and we'll do our best to answer. And we're going to try and put some short bios up on the screen in that Q&A box that may or may not work. PDG Don Peterson helped lead the charge to Take a Dream, a Hot Meals food trailer, to respond to community need from inception to reality. Don, you're on. You're next.
Well, thank you. To start the story, I met Dick Cochran back in 2018 at a Rotary meeting in Kearney Don Rotary, where I was a member. And he shared with us his vision for this thing he called Hot Meals USA. The next month, in April, at our annual district conference in Grand Island, we presented the Hot Meals concept to a very strong supporter, Rotary supporter, Greg Pod, who was a past director, past Rotary vice president, got his blessing and his input, and we moved on. Then we worked with another partnership, Mr. Ron Apoon, a past district governor from Knoxville, Tennessee. And between the group, we wrote a global grant to fund the very first Hot Meals trailer and truck. Unfortunately, that global grant application was denied, but we didn't quit. So then we continued discussions specifically through Ron Apoon and his district, and the Rotary Club of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, in District 6780, decided to be our partner, and they went ahead and funded a district grant for $35,000 to equip the very first trailer. The Kearney Don Rotary Club in our district funded a district grant for $36,000 for the four-wheel drive dedicated pickup. Then in March 2019, the Nebraska floods hit. These were ice jam derived, and they did an enormous amount of disaster. So in April of 2019, I was sitting in the hotel room in Evanston attending Council on Legislation when Rotary made the announcement that you could apply for disaster relief grants. So called Dick on the phone, and from the motel room, we wrote a grant for $14,500 for that flood, for food, water, expenses, and so on. So then in August of 2019, the first cooking equipped trailer and pickup were dedicated in Kearney. So Deb, move the slide. We'll back up to March of 2019. This was the very first deployment of Hot Meals USA. So you can see we were in the little town of Dannebrog, a town of about 300. In the picture you're looking at, the water level on Main Street was over 5 foot deep for over 35 minutes. So the Hot Meals trailer showed up. It had one piece of equipment in it, which was a cooker and a borrowed pickup. Next slide. And then we moved on down the interstate to Hamburg, Iowa in April of 2019. And the folks in the photo are the district governor and governor-elect from District 5650 in eastern Nebraska, southwest Iowa. And then we went on down the highway and did deployments to Gibbon, Wood River, and Shelton. Okay, next slide. So in 2019, the first equipped trailer was purchased and completed, and it was dedicated in August of 2019. So one might ask, what's Rotary's connection? Well, Rotary's connection to Hot Meals was to meet the volunteer needs when deployed. So when a disaster hits and Dick receives the location, date, and time to deploy, then we utilize the Rotary Club locator and identify and contact Rotary clubs in the vicinity of the disaster. And we ask them, we're going to show up at a certain time. We need 50 volunteers on the ground to help us set up and help cook. And every time we show up, they're all there. And naturally, not all Rotarians. There's Lion Club members, there's Knights of Columbus members. The whole town usually comes out. The other part that's with hot meals is hot meals can deploy and feed people in need anywhere in the continental United States. And naturally, what does Rotary have everywhere in the continental United States? Rotary clubs. So it's a good fit for us. We hope it's a good fit for hot meals. And you can see on the trailer, Rotary is identified a lot. Since it was the first trailer, we had a funding uh, thing going on for a sizable donation. Your Rotary club or district got to be on the trailer. So we ended up with over 50 clubs on the side of the trailer in 4 countries. So it went over really well. So that's how Hot Meals started with Rotary, and Rotary started with Hot Meals. Okay.
Thanks, Don. Next up, good friend, great Rotarian Dick Corcoran. He is the CEO of Hot Meals USA, and he had a dream. What if he took his knowledge of large-scale meal prep to the communities that needed the care and feeding a Hot Meals program could provide? His dream took hold, and with the help of Rotary volunteers, Hot Meals springs to action when disaster strikes. Dick, you're on.
All right, thank you, Deb. If you'd go to our first slide there, and obviously Rotary is such an important part for Hot Meals. Um, Not only did you help fund our first trailer, but you guys have been on the ground with us throughout our history. Deb, if you would go ahead to the next slide, please. There we go. So Don talked a little bit about it back in 2016. We've actually formed Hot Meals. This was after 3 years of meeting with the folks from FEMA, Red Cross, Salvation Army on a national basis, just to really understand what it was that their needs were out there. And we went to Rotary. I'm a Rotarian, talked to our local group, as Don said, and we moved it on. In 2000, by 2019, we had a trailer built. We didn't have all the equipment, but we had enough to start out. So when the floods hit, we went ahead and deployed, and it was Rotary who was with us on the ground when we did the first cooking with that trailer. At the time, we could probably make 5, 6, 700 meals a day. And we've grown quite a bit since then. So after that, after the floods, my gosh, we've gone out and deployed to all different types of disasters, but without Rotary providing those volunteers for us, this simply wouldn't have happened, because the whole entire thing is designed that we've built a mobile kitchen. We come out with 3 people, probably tops, and the rest of it all has to be local volunteers. And the whole idea of Hot Meals is not to replace what local communities can do or Rotary groups can do. It's to enhance what you guys can do. And we started there, like Don said, with 1 trailer and a borrowed pickup. And that's how the whole thing began. So, Deb, if you jump into a little bit of today. So in today's world, looking back since 2019, we've deployed hundreds of times. We've cooked over almost 500,000 meals out there. We've deployed in everything from the Dakotas down through Nebraska, Kansas, over into Iowa, down into Kentucky, down into Texas as well, and down into Georgia after hurricanes. So we've been starting to spread out across the country. Um, we've responded, like it says, to floods. We've worked in flood areas, tornado areas, hurricane areas, fires, and pandemics. Just during the pandemic alone, we served over 155,000 meals. And because of that, the USDA got a hold of us and asked us if we would start to hand out food boxes. Didn't quite realize it would get as big as it did. We ended up handing out food boxes through North and South Dakota, all through Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and part of Minnesota. Long story short, after a year of those food boxes, USDA had between us and Rotarians all around those states, we handed out 1,300,000 of those, which equates to about 28 million meals out there for people to have. So they had food during that pandemic. The things that Rotary did on those days were absolutely nothing short of amazing. Um, every single time we have deployed, there's been a Rotarian on the ground waiting for us when we got there. We now have 4 trailers out there, and it's not on the slide yet because I didn't know it at the time, but our 5th trailer has now been picked up. It's on its way back from Georgia and should be here within the next 24 hours, and we'll begin on building that one. We now have the capability of serving about 35,000 meals a day if we had to deploy all the equipment at one time. Our goal is to get to 12 of these trailers, and with 5 of them there, we're almost halfway home. We are working on our own building. We currently rent a space that we can rebuild these trailers. All these trailers are rebuilt from, we buy a box trailer and they're totally rebuilt. We add insulation, we add fortify the walls with the heavy equipment we have. We have to do that. We had electricity in our own water supply as well as our own hot water heater. And all of that can be run off the generators that we bring along with us. So we are pretty self-sufficient. And it's wonderful to see this dream coming together, and especially wonderful for me to see all the Rotarians that participate. Next slide, if you would, Deb. There we go. Next up for Hot Meals and hopefully for Rotary is regional deployment teams, or RAD teams. You know, Deb talked about it. Rotary has local eyes and ears on the ground. In today's world, we never go to a place unless we've been invited. We've worked through emergency managers and government sources to let them know we're here, but there's nothing like local eyes and ears on the ground. And that's really what a RAD team is all about. It's asking people to step up and learn a little bit about hot meals. We have classes that you can take on our website. By doing that, you can sign up and become part of a RAD team in your area so that if something would happen in an area that you're in or right next to you, you can reach out to Hot Meals, and with your local knowledge of who the mayor is, who the emergency manager is, or who the person in charge is, that gives us a step up so that we can make those calls and make sure that we get there when people need us and we can get there quickly. It's a perfect project for clubs, and it can be Rotary driven. Hot Meals only comes when a RAD team calls us or when an emergency manager or government official calls us. So this could become a very, very good project for Rotary to grab a hold of, and just imagine you guys could actually direct disaster responses, make sure people get fed. You know, we do this with food, but it's really about neighbors reaching out to neighbors. And that's why on these lines, when we bring 3 people, our people are in the background, we're cooking, we're doing that stuff, getting the food ready, making sure it's safe. But it has to be the local people on the ground. It means a lot more to get a meal from a neighbor and somebody that you know, and somebody that may have been through the same thing that these people are suffering from. And it's a whole lot more than a meal when things like that come together. And that, I think, to me, is probably the magic of what makes Hot Meals special. It's seeing that friend that's there, and it's amazing the number of times that people come through a line and they need a meal, they haven't eaten. Gosh, we've had people hadn't eaten in 2 days, and they come through these lines and they see their neighbor with a smile on their face, and they hand them that meal, and within days, those same people that were receiving the meals they're in lines too now, but they're on the other side. They're helping serve, and it makes recovery happen faster. The faster you get people up and standing on their own, you watch them, their whole attitude changes. It goes from, oh my gosh, we're in trouble, we've been devastated, I don't know what to do, to here's a first step. You know what? It may not be a big thing, but I'm helping. And the pride that you see that starts to come into their faces when you see that, that's there's no dollar amount that can replace that. I mean, it's amazing to watch that happen. We've watched communities be totally devastated and watched days later these same people that didn't know what to do and where to go, all of a sudden they have a purpose again. And all of us can't go out and cut down trees and rebuild things anymore, but you know what? Just about everybody can stand in a line and serve food to their neighbors and take that minute to talk to them and build each other up again. We've had Rotarians that our oldest one was 92 years old in Spencer, Iowa, after a flood. His first name was Bob. I'll never forget him. He was there for every single meal. And like he never did serve a meal, but he stood there as people came in and he greeted them and he knew them and the difference that made. You know, I see a very bright future and it's here right now. And with Rotary, the service above self, my gosh, that's exactly what Hot Meals is all about. We don't do this for the publicity or anything else. We simply do this to help people. I'm a volunteer just like everybody else is. Um, I do it because I love people. I hate to see them down. And this gives me an opportunity to go out and do things that I couldn't do anymore. I can't go out and cut trees down for folks, but by golly, I can bring them some really good hot food and we can make a significant difference in the United States. All of us watch that news and you walk away from it feeling bad about it. But I'll tell you what, you do this, you go out and you help people and you watch other people want to step in and help. Um, you see a whole different country here. There are a lot of good people here that really want to help, and Rotary is completely chuck full of them. I'm proud to be a Rotarian because of this. And we live by one rule and one rule only. For I was hungry and you gave me food. And I hope in our future we can continue to work together to help one another. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Dick, for everything you do, and thank you for being such a good friend and being out there all the time. The QR code in the corner there is will take you to the Hot Meals website, where you can learn more about this tremendous organization. Next up is my good friend Lorena Beckius. Um, let's see. When the fires hit Nebraska earlier this spring, it was brought on by the combination of extreme drought and high winds. And it created this perfect storm. One of the fires moved at over 100 miles per hour as it crossed the pastures. And so Hot Meals does what it does, and it called its partners Rotary. And District Governor Lorena Beckius answered the call. Thank you, Lorena, for bringing all these forces together. And good friend, you're on.
Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you for having me here today. As a district governor, you just don't know what you have to respond or what you have to do. I mean, this is my second year around, and the first time I was like, well, I didn't have to do a disaster, and it's fine. And this time, it was scary. To be honest, this fire was actually very close to my home. There was one night where a neighbor come knocking at the door and it said, actually, the fire crossed and jumped the lake, and you guys need to actually get the fire sprinklers running, get your bags in about 2 hours and a half because of the weather and how strong the winds are. It's going to come here. And so it was definitely a time of panic. And it got me thinking, at that time is like, what do you normally take in these situations? And, I don't know what to do, but thanks God, nothing happened that night. We were able to stay there, but you can smell, you can do, I mean, you knew that there was a fire. So the Morrill fire was actually right next to us. And then there was the Cottonwood fire and next I mean, like about an hour and a half from where I am. So it was actually crazy to see that there was two big fires just right around me. And the first thing that happened to myself was I got a phone call and a text message from Don Peterson, and he's actually telling me, "Hey, Hot Meals USA and Dick wants to meet with all of us." And I said, "Okay, let's make it happen. Let's just have a actually an emergency call. FEMA called them. They need to support 600, actually feed 600 volunteers and fire departments and firefighters." So I was like, okay, you can move to the next slide. Let's just actually get in there. And so we had the phone call, and I don't know what to do as far as logistics, everything. It just seems so much, so crazy. And the only thing I can say to Dick was like, sure, Dick, we're going to make it happen. I don't know how we're going to make it, but sure, sure. So he's like, we need to actually have two locations. We have to feed 600 firefighters. We have to work. You have to get me volunteers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get all these volunteers. We need at least 40 to 50 volunteers a day in two different locations with the time change. But sure, send me more information. We will actually get there. After I hang up the actual phone call, then a good friend that was in the phone call too, Mary Eisensimmer from my call, she's like, Lorena, do you really know what you actually say yes to? And I said, no, but we're going to make it happen. So we didn't realize how big of a beast it was. There was so much going on, but the only thing that we need to know is they needed us there to help. And that's what Rotarians do. We don't really think about what else is going or how hard it's going to be. We're just going to be there to help out. And in my district, we lead by example. We're there to make sure we're every single day, make sure everything goes well. And that's when Rotary partners with passionate organizations and volunteers, extraordinary things happen. And he did. It was actually really nice to see that all these people around me that were really scared, they all came together to actually help. But the wonderful thing was the family of Rotary. We sent several emails to all the leadership, to every single member, and everyone was just trying to find a way to come and fill the gaps. But the need was really greater than just the Rotarians. We needed to partner up with everyone who worked together with organization, businesses, anybody that could definitely lend a hand. We do, like I said, we had two locations, one in our plat that was actually helping the Cottonwood fire, and the actual Ogallala location was helping the Mora fire. So these two locations, that means this Hot Meals USA was located in North Platte area, and they had to cook all the 600 meals there, and then had drivers that will bring some meals to Ogallala. We had people to serve on both locations. Then we needed to have volunteers to come and assemble boxes, 600 lunches every single day, so they make sure that at night they can actually send it with the meal and all that. So it was just crazy to see the logistic behind it. So we had to be designing different ads. We had to be sharing to different groups. The great thing is we were able to add our logo. And that's one thing that Dick said, when you had the opportunity to speak to the actually TV or radio or anything, add your logo. And we wanted to make sure that we were present in there. We were able to share thousands of views on different videos, or actually shares of different ads requesting for people to sign up and all these different shifts. And it was just really nice just to see that Rotary was there ready to help. And a lot of people did not know what Rotary is, and it got as opportunity for us to be behind everyone, to be able to just show up and tell them what Rotary is. And more people wanted to actually help and be part of this amazing organization that was actually starting to do this. You can go next slide, Deb. And so together we actually achieved that we serve over 26,600 meals served. That's crazy. It was about 23 days that we were there, night and day. We were actually cooking, serving, assembling. It was just an amazing thing to actually see all these people coming together to do it. 700 plus volunteers that were mobilized, 900 plus shifts that were completed. So it was like crazy to see the amount of things that we were able to accomplish when we all worked together. Deb, would you change to the next slide, please? So the greatest thing is, like, we were so excited to have the firefighters here and actually thank them for everything that they were doing for us. but they were in shock to see all these people around that were saying thank you to them, that were reminding them why they are there to support our community. You know, we had a day that the kids, that all the third graders around the community from all the three different schools, they actually did thank you cards. They actually do some drawings. And there were like some firefighters that were just in tears. They were just saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe a little kid is thinking about me, or thank you for doing this because I have kids that I missed it. So it was really nice to see in the hard times during a disaster the best thing of humanity. And it was great to see that we were able to get a lot of kids to come out there and give them like thank you cards with like chocolates, and they got all the awesome perks. They were able to actually get to see all the different cars and trucks and everything too. So it was a win-win situation. Everyone was able to enjoy each other, which was great. Can you go to the next slide, Deb? And so if you actually see in this last slide, it was just amazing to see. In a matter of an hour, we were able to gather to get 4 or 5, actually it was 500 different items that represents Ogallala. We wanted to say thank you to every single firefighter. We all wanted to just show them how grateful we are. And it was just really nice that everyone in there, in the community, came together. We were able to gather all these souvenirs so that we can send all that with actually to all the firefighters to say thank you for everything they have done for us. And it was just really nice to see how everyone came, did this. The firefighters and the actually two teams that we work with, they were absolutely thankful for everything that we have done for them. They have never seen something that is run by volunteers that absolutely filled their hearts just with a thank you and a big smile. And that's something that we as Rotarian do that, and we can brighten everyone's life when we actually bring a smile and say a thank you. And it was just a nice opportunity to talk about Rotary, what we do, and just show them what Rotary is about. Service above self. That's something that we actually worked really hard for 23 days, day and night. But it was just the best thing in my eyes to see is how the community and everyone came together to make this big beast happen, because it was huge. So it was really an amazing opportunity. And thank you so much, Deb, for having me today.
Oh, Lorena, thank you so much for bringing your passion for everything that's just happened. And you truly brought the forces together. So thank you. It is my pleasure now to introduce past Rotary International Director Susie Howe, and good friend. Susie coordinated 650 volunteer logistics for Hurricane Katrina evacuees at the Houston Astrodome in 2005. I asked Susie to tell her story, not only because it's worthy of being remembered, which it really is, but also because it brings this evening's point home. Katrina was just something else. And Houston's Astrodome became a symbol of Houston's hospitality. It housed thousands of Katrina evacuees, and Rotarian volunteers were there. Susie was at the forefront, and she led the charge. Susie, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can put you up on center screen.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Deb. This is a wonderful opportunity to share these stories, and I'm sure everybody watching has stories that they can tell, and I'm so proud of the service that we do in Rotary. So here's my story. As Hurricane Katrina was coming down the Texas Gulf Coast, I was invited to the Astrodome to accept 200 shelter boxes. You know the shelter boxes, the big green box that had a tent, a water filtration system, some food, enough to sustain a family for a couple of months. So Rotarian Anita Smallwood at her home took the phone call, and she did the phone bank from her home during that time. Over 250,000 evacuees fled New Orleans to take refuge in the Houston Astrodome and the George R. Brown Convention Center. There was no playbook. The shelter box representative welcomed me to the second floor of Reliance Center. After introductions, he said, "Whatever you do, don't go through those two doors." Well, those two doors, I took that for about 30 seconds and then I went in because the command center had police, fire, EMS, Red Cross Metro, Harris County Health, Public Health, Harris County Houston Authority, and the Coast Guard. And when I went through those two doors, Rotary had a seat at the table. I stayed for 3.5 weeks, and my husband came on the weekends to work on the loading docks. In logistics, it wasn't what you would see on CNN, but it was what was working. 650 Rotary volunteers. When Rotarians arrived to help and were wearing a Rotary logo, a Rotary pin, or a hat or a shirt, they would skip the orientation and come right up the escalator to my center. They served as greeters. They were hosts for dignitaries. They hunted down golf carts, arranged for delivery, ice delivery for medical needs, provided signage for the command center. They even arranged for an 18-wheeler to drive all the way across Texas, filling it with wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, to be delivered to the evacuees at the Astrodome. We even answered the phones, like we had a hub for lost loved ones. I accepted an offer of corporate donations, the 18-wheelers, 2 jet airliners, and one call for 1 million meals. So this is what I did. I took that call for the jetliners, the million meals. I partnered with every agency in Harris County and surrounding counties, as well as the city of Houston, for supplies and services. I met unbelievable people. Ricky Martin. I returned to my school one afternoon and I asked my students, "Who's Ricky Martin?" The highest ranking female, I also met the highest ranking female with the Houston Police Department, the head of Homeland Security. I met the person of the week for ABC News 2 times. And I met a lady named Barbara, a former RI employee, a liaison for the RI convention in Houston in 1972. Okay, so here's one of my favorite parts. I got to meet Presidents 41 and 42. And when word was coming through that they were going to come up to logistics, the military types stood very tall and put their shoulders back to get ready for this encounter. I knew I would need to be succinct. When Presidents Bush and Clinton came into the room, I extended my hand and said, "President Bush, Rotary is here." He looked down at my name badge and said with a twinkle in his eye, "Susie, you know I'm a Rotarian." I replied, "Yes, sir, the Rotary Club of Houston." So towards the end of every day up until the end of the 3.5 weeks, the Red Cross went to every cot on the floor of the Astrodome to ask what their plans were. Where were they going? When would they leave? And as the footprint got smaller and smaller, a second hurricane, Hurricane Rita, was heading for the Houston area, and all evacuees had to be evacuated. We put them on buses to Ellington Field, where my 2 jet airliners were waiting to take them to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. We loaded the last of the evacuees onto the planes, and we worked with the local air marshals. What did Rotary get out of this? Okay, I said be sure to wear your Rotary pin, but I'm telling you, at Ellington Field, I had on this cap, and I got a phone call later in the day. A friend of mine in Oklahoma said, "Suze, we saw you on CNN." Because they could see my logo. They had a pretty good idea I was under that cap. So take a cap with you. Rotary, we got to meet Presidents 41 and 42. We went on to the ground of the NFL Texans game, which was nationally broadcast, and I said, "I don't need to do that." And then I said, "Yes, I do. Rotary has a seat at the table. I'm going down on the floor of the football game." We gained friendships, fellowships, opportunities for grants. We got articles on the RI website. We were recognized among community leaders that Rotarians play a unique role in bringing together business expertise and resources to solve problems. Let's give this gift to others, this gift of Rotary. Thank you, Deb.
Susie, thank you so much for your insight to all of this. I do believe that we're going to have time for a couple of questions. I'll answer one real quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Adi for a minute. A person in the chat asked, really, what was the cause of these fires, and could it have been prevented? At least that's how I read it. Um, it was like a perfect storm. We had extreme drought conditions, almost zero humidity because it had been so long since we'd had any rain, extreme drought, and very high winds, 65, 75 miles per hour winds. And so one of the fires was caused by electrical, and the fires south of the interstate were caused by, we had no rain and low humidity, but we had a lightning storm in all of this. So it's hard to explain how they all happened, but it was just a lot of different factors that worked together. And thank you so much for everyone who's joined on tonight. Please get on the Hot Meals website, www.hotmealsusa.org. They've got great information there. Adi, I'd like to turn this webinar over to my good friend, fellow DG during our DG years, and one of our webinar committee members. It's all yours.
Thank you, Deb. And thank you once again to all our presenters and guests this evening. What we experienced tonight was far more than a webinar about events. It was a reminder of what happens when Rotary is visible, engaged, organized, and ready to serve. We began tonight hearing how in the spring of this year, Nebraska burned and then burned again. Over 890,000 acres impacted, communities devastated, families displaced, infrastructure destroyed. And yet, in the middle of crisis, Rotarians answered the call. Deb reminded us tonight that disasters always begin and end locally, and that Rotarians on the ground make the difference. Your stories of partnership with firefighters, first responders, volunteers, and local communities showed Rotary at its absolute best. And perhaps the most important lesson of the evening was this: people join Rotary for service. And when clubs create meaningful opportunities for service, people stay in Rotary. That is not theory. Tonight we saw living proof of it. A very special thank you to Don Peterson for sharing the remarkable journey of Rotary Foundation disaster relief, partnerships, and the evolution of Hot Meals USA from a single trailer and borrowed pickup into a nationally recognized disaster response operation. From the 2019 Nebraska floods to hundreds of deployments across multiple states and nearly 500,000 meals served, Rotary has been present every step of the way. Thank you as well to Dick Cochran for demonstrating what sustained collaboration between Rotary and community partners can accomplish over time. Your message tonight was clear. Rotary does not simply respond to disasters. Rotary builds capacity, relationships, trust, and hope long before disaster strikes. And thank you to Lorena Bickius for your enthusiasm for emphasizing how communication and social media mobilize rotations quickly and effectively. Your insight reinforced something every club should remember. Visibility matters. When communities see Rotary in action, they want to become part of it. And finally, a very special thank you to our past Rotary International Director, Susie Howe, for bringing global perspective and lived experience to tonight's discussion. Your reflections on Hurricane Katrina, the Houston Astrodome volunteer operations, and the EF4 tornado response in Omaha remind us that Rotary's greatest strength is not simply structure. It is people. People willing to serve, people willing to organize, people willing to show up when communities need them most. That spirit of service above self is what transforms an event into impact, and impact into membership growth. Tonight's webinar was called Event to Member Conversion Playbook. And I believe tonight answered the question better than any slide could. People are attracted to Rotary when they witness authentic service, purposeful leadership, and meaningful action. The strongest membership strategy any club can have is to create opportunities for people to serve together. Because when people experience Rotary in action, they want to belong to it. Before we close, I want to personally invite all of you to join us again on June 16, 2026 at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for our next Membership Master Vault webinar. Our June session will feature the Assistant Rotary Coordinators. You can see all of them lined up there from across our zones as they come together to celebrate the incredible work happening throughout our districts. This will not be theory. This will be real-time Rotary. You will hear membership spotlights, roadmaps to Olympic success, storytelling strategies that strengthen engagement, and coordination vibrancy highlights directly from the field. These leaders are working every day with clubs and districts, experiencing real membership momentum, real innovation, and real results. They will share practical ideas, tested approaches, and success stories that clubs can immediately adapt and implement in their own communities. And perhaps more importantly, they will remind us that strong districts are built one engaged club at a time. And strong clubs are built through relationships, service, visibility, and intentional leadership. Please make plans to join us on June 16th. You will leave encouraged, energized, and equipped with ideas you can immediately put to work in your club and district. You will not want to miss that conversation. Please join us. Thank you again for your leadership, your service, and your commitment to strengthening Rotary through meaningful engagement and purposeful action. Until next time, take what you've heard tonight and put it to work. Good evening, everyone.